Hello there. Yeah. So I've seen a lot of people on YouTube, TikTok, those types of platforms making curriculums for themselves. I loosely put together a summer curriculum for myself because I have summers off from work. And as you can see, it ended up being quite an ambitious one. I got around to like 1.5 books out of all of these. There's still time, but I think some of these are gonna have to be an autumn curriculum. So let's get into it. The one book that I did finish this summer was Your Brain on Art. This is nonfiction. If you are an artist, whether professionally or an amateur hobbyist like myself, this book will fascinate you and validate you as to the importance of art, not only on an individual level, but at a community level, a global level even. Because science has shown us that engagement with the arts is associated with, that was my cat meowing for attention. Studies have shown us that the arts, engagement with the arts is associated with longer lifespans, decreased cognitive decline with aging, reduced risk of dementia, and oh, here she is. Let's try that again. So, if you want to know more about the science of art and the psychology of art and its impact on human well-being, give this book a try. Next, I'm going to go into the part of this curriculum that really was a curriculum. This is thick. This is probably the thickest book that I have in my curriculum that I had put together. But I want to read it. I want to understand exactly what it says on the tin: postmodernism, late stage capitalism. And so as part of these, we have some, from what I understand, are kind of seminal texts on the subject, like The Society of the Spectacle. I would still really like to get into these and maybe make a video about it in the future. Still on the train of nonfiction, I've been reading a lot of really depressing political science type books about US politics, and I was looking for something maybe a little more hopeful or optimistic while still being realistic. And that search led me to this book, This Land Is Your Land. But again, I am a big nonfiction girly. That's simplifying things. I love all genres. I am a mood reader. I like to have multiple books going at the same time. And I think sometimes that is part of the problem, because I will start a book and then get distracted, move on to another book, and I need an intervention. Where is it? Where is it? I started reading a short story collection, Out There, by Kate Folk. Kate Folk is the author of Sky Daddy, which is a very popular weird girl lit piece. And I really enjoyed this book. I didn't really know what to expect going into it. I thought it was going to be just very silly. But it had a lot of heart, and I really fell in love with the main character and was rooting for her. So I just wanted to read a little bit more from this author's imagination. The stories so far were fine, kind of a little bit sci-fi. Here comes Artemis again. And I would like to continue reading it. I just don't know when I'm gonna get around to it. Next up, another sort of mini curriculum that I had going for myself was Toni Morrison. I have this copy of The Bluest Eye, Sula, and of course, Beloved. And I know that Toni Morrison has written quite prolifically, but I wanted to start with these three. And I still fully plan to get around to these because I feel like Toni Morrison is a huge gap in my classic reading. Also, as part of that curriculum, I had kind of a bonus read, which was Nella Larsen's Passing. I think it sort of has similar themes to some of Toni Morrison's work, so I put that in there. I'm from Florida originally, and up until a few weeks ago, I had no idea that this book existed. And it's a little thick. We didn't read it in school. It's, from what I understand, a multi-generational family saga, so we gotta get to that eventually. We're really in the final stretch. As you can see, there was an attempt, but we'll get to that. There's been a lot of hype and talk about John Steinbeck on BookTok. I feel like people are always talking about East of Eden, which I would love to read eventually. In school, we read Of Mice and Men, but I would like to get back into Steinbeck with something a little shorter and less intimidating than like a multi-generational family saga that's a retelling of the myth of Cain and Abel, or something like The Grapes of Wrath, which is, set in Depression era United States. So this is, I think, kind of a lesser known Steinbeck. It's, from what I understand, his writings after doing a road trip across America with his dog Charlie. And I think as like a mini curriculum, these two would pair really well together. This is a book that I started in early July. I got about a third of the way through in one sitting. I was on a roll. I was really vibing with it, enjoying it. I think this would be considered kind of another modern classic or postmodern classic. And it's a book that I started reading in high school and got distracted from, as I often do. For no particular reason, no fault of the book. I was enjoying the book. So I'm starting over with it. All right. So this might be college boy edgelord of me, but I genuinely enjoyed Fight Club, the movie and the novel, and I've wanted to read other books by this author. A friend of mine started reading this book last summer, and she didn't get very far because she read the first couple lines and found it to be cringe. And having read the first few lines myself, I kind of am inclined to agree, and cliche. But the premise of the book sounds really entertaining, so I'm willing to give it a try, particularly because I got this book for $5 at a used bookstore. So it's not a big deal if I don't love it. So that's everything that I have for you today. What I love about books and surrounding myself with books is that they're kind of a promise of future knowledge that I'm going to attain, future entertainment that I'm going to enjoy. And ever since I was young, being surrounded by books, having bookshelves in my space, brings me a sense of calm. It just brings me a lot of comfort. So I guess what I want to wrap up with is this. Executive dysfunction can be really difficult to understand if it's not something that you struggle with. And you might think, well, I want to do something, so I'm going to do it. For me and other people with executive dysfunction, it's not always that simple. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this little bookish vlog, and I think I'm gonna go make myself a blueberry matcha and hopefully make a dent in one of these books that I shared with you today. All right, see you next time.